Zinc Media. Feel the power of knowledge.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with completely, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. Yes, it is I, your lovable host, Rod, coming to you live from my bunkerized home studio somewhere within the great granite state of New Hampshire. Yes, the state where freedom reigns, because the state motto is live free or die. It is not big government or bust. Yes, indeed, we have a special visitor here in the bunkerized home studio this evening. I'm thinking about making him the mascot. His name is Cooper, and he is a feline. He is of medium size, and actually his coloring, except for his tan and white coon tail, his coloring is that of a lion cub. As a matter of fact, that's the reason why I chose to keep him, is because when he was a kitten, he looked exactly like Simba from the movie The Lion King, and Cooper actually is double pawed on his front paws too. So he's got some huge feet on his front paws, front legs. But he has decided to join me this evening here in the bunkerized home studio. So. Maybe I should have called him something else like George or something like, one of the founding fathers. But there he is, Cooper. No, and he's not named for Gary Cooper or any other Cooper that you might know. I just thought the name Cooper was kind of cool. I don't know why. I just thought it was cool at the time. But in any case, here we are on this hump day, this Wednesday, February the 27th, the year of our Lord, 2013. Halfway through the week, for those of you who like to keep track of such things, I have too much fun doing just about everything that I do, so I don't view things as, oh my God, it's Monday, and yay, it's Friday. I don't spend 5 days out of 7 looking forward to only 2. I'm pretty busy throughout the... I know I was... I said that I was going to have a blog about my new venture. And then I realized I don't have time to write it. So what I'm just going to have to do... I'm not going to hire somebody else to write it, because that doesn't make any sense, because that just defeats the whole purpose of what the reason behind why I was doing all this is. But at the moment, I just don't have the time. I'm up against the wall, and I always tell people, well, the people that say that they don't have time, I always tell them, well, how much TV do you watch? And invariably they come down, well, I have this show and this show and this show and this show that I can't miss. Well, and invariably they're watching TV like 2 or 3 hours per day during the week. and not on the weekends. So the weekends are a little bit different. But, that's anywhere from 10 to 15 hours a week. I don't even get to watch TV on average. I mean, there are shows that I like. Yeah, and I'm lucky if I get to watch one of them, during the week. And, because I get them on Netflix or other places like that, I don't watch the full commercial side. So it's not so an hour show for me is not an hour. It ends up being anywhere from like 40 to 50 minutes, depending on how many commercials the program has. I'm lucky if I can throw that in, and it's usually at the end of my day when I'm relaxing just before I go to bed. So I don't have time. I'm from the time that I get up, I am on the go. I am trying to accomplish things, get things done. That is just me. Look, some people say, well, someday, Rod, you're just going to have to slow down or retire. I think I always talk about that I wanted to retire early. I think I'm in a position or a place right now where I can equate that to retirement. Because after all, what is retirement? Retirement is actually doing the things that you like to do and having the time and probably the money to afford to do them. That's why people retire. And a lot of people retire to doing nothing. You can't do your hobby for 12 hours a day for most people. So I look at it, I'm doing my hobbies. And so I get to do them on a daily basis. And that's fun. My mother asked me not too long ago, she says, Rod, are you happy? And I sat down. I was already sitting when she asked me the question. And I paused for about 2 seconds. And I said, Mom, I'm extremely happy the way my life is going right now. Could things be better? Yes. Could some areas of my life improve? Absolutely. Everybody can say that. But generally speaking, I'm extremely happy with my life right now. And yet, I live in a country where I can actually say and do that for now. I mean, yes, as a nation, we have a myriad of problems and issues. And it isn't, and I'm going to be frank, it's not all of this trouble and garbage that we're going through right now. It is not all of it is the fault of Barack Hussein Obama. Not all of it is the fault of liberal Democrats. Let's be honest with it. It's not. I mean, Republicans can share some of the blame. Even we conservatives can be faulted for a few things, and that's simply because no human being except for Jesus Christ who ever walked this planet has ever been perfect. Not even yours truly, me. Nobody's perfect. So we all make mistakes. And unfortunately, because our national and local and state leaders are also human, they'll make mistakes. And unfortunately, those mistakes that they make affect us directly and indirectly in a myriad of different ways in our lives. But you have to look, generally speaking, you have to say, okay, who is doing the most good and who is doing the most harm? And I'm sorry, I have to say, well, I'm not sorry about it. The facts are the facts. The truth is the truth. The most harm, the most damage being done to our nation today is not by Republicans, definitely not by conservatives, but it's being done by liberals and Democrats. And it's being done by Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, and Barack Hussein Obama. While everybody's out there just loving him, now this guy is caught himself. Well, the sequestration thing. This guy is caught between a rock and a hard place right now because I know he's probably going to weasel his way out of this somehow. He's probably going to be able to say that it was somebody else's fault, and the lamestream media is going to back him up on this. But understand, this sequestration crap, this is Barack Obama's fault. Now, we have everybody out there, some of the pundits and all the politicians and politicos, even on the Republican side, saying, "Oh yeah, this sequestration is going to be a disaster." I mean, we just learned today that ICE, the Immigration Service, is letting illegal immigrants go from its custody in preparation for what? Sequestration and the end of March, the end of the continuing resolution for the federal government budget. They're already letting criminals go. And I'm sorry, whether they committed a crime outside of illegally entering our country or not is irrelevant. They committed a crime by entering. But most of these people that they're letting go have committed other crimes. That's how they were caught. And now our government is letting them go. Oh, yeah, well, hey, Rod, they still have to go to court and appear for their, their deportation hearings and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so they're not really all scot-free. Yeah, if you couldn't find them before they committed a criminal act, how are you going to find them now? Do they all have, a GPS locator buttons on them somewhere? Yeah, I don't think so. So now we have this sequestration stuff that it has gotten everybody in an uproar in the press and on Capitol Hill, but it's a red herring. It's bogus. Let me be blunt. It's bullshit. You're talking a $44 billion reduction in the cost of spending out of $3.7 trillion that we're expected to spend this year. $44 billion. Our government wastes more than $44 billion a year. As a matter of fact, there was just a expose this earlier this afternoon that I saw briefly, and it was on Fox. Well, of course, because it's not going to be on MSNBC or CNN, that's for damn sure. It was on Fox, and it was showing how we're spending nearly $150 million a year on federal government workers that are doing union business. Well, hell, there's $150 million we can save right there. Just cut that crap out. We've got useless programs in the Pentagon that could be cut. Hey, let's put our aircraft carriers back out in the open sea where they belong. And let's cut out some of the crap, of the waste. We all know of the days gone by when what were some of the prices? Like $600 for a toilet seat and $500 for a hammer. That stuff still happens, but it's not just in the Pentagon. It's not just in the Department of Defense that kind of stuff happens. It's across our entire government, and now you have some Democrat who's proposing seriously to have a Department of Peace. So another government, cabinet level government agency. Well, that means more government workers and government personnel and an opportunity for more government waste. We already have a Department of Peace. We currently call it the Department of Defense. Pretty plain and simple. We'll get more into this sequestration stuff as the show goes on. There's something else that I wanted to address, and this just came up actually. So because I'm a professional. I can change the show on the fly, and that's what I'm about to do right now. You're about to see that, hear that, changing the show on the fly. I know I've only got an hour tonight, and And yes, we will be going back to the 2-hour format shortly, soon. But tonight we got the Express going on, so it's only an hour. But the 2-hour format will be back soon, so do not fret. I know some of you are wondering, well, when are you going to get your 2 hours, Rod? You need 2 hours. No, I need like 4 hours a day. I don't have the time to do that. But I could fill 4 hours a day easily. But one of the things that I find that I have to address, because we have the Supreme Court taking up the issue of Section 5 of the federal right to vote. And everybody's thinking, is making it sound like the Supreme Court is looking at the entire law and could possibly toss out the entire. No, they're not even touching the rest of it. They're focusing on one point, Section 5, which basically states that all the racist southern states back in 1965 are still under the government thumb. And if those states want to change even the smallest detail of their election laws, they have to get the permission of the federal government, i.e. the Department of Justice, first. You know, they can't even say, well, we need people just to show an ID when they come to vote. No, they got to get the federal government's permission. Now, the one, and this is a sticking point, and I still can't get an answer. Because everybody you got the left out there that always talks about, well, you have a right to vote. Constitution guarantees that. Yeah, you do. You have a right to vote. So you shouldn't need to show an ID for something that you have a right for. Oh, really? Well, I have a right to bear arms, to own a gun, but I got to show an ID for that. Well, that's different. Really? I have to show ID to get a driver's license, but the Constitution doesn't give you a right to drive. No, directly it does not. Indirectly it does. Well, how do you mean, Rod? How do you mean the Constitution indirectly gives you the right to drive? Because in the Constitution it says I have the right to pursue happiness, and considering that our governments, from the federal level all the way down, has helped to build our society where I require a vehicle in most places that I choose to live to pursue my happiness, I, in a way, have a right to drive. As long as I follow the laws and the rules. Now, understand, if I don't follow the laws and the rules and I get convicted of certain kinds of crimes, I lose my right to vote. So therefore, if I have to have an ID for anything, such as even traveling to Canada, I have to have an ID in order to get a passport. And then that passport becomes a form of identification, which I need to travel outside of the United States, no matter where I go. If I have to have an identification for everything in life, be it public meaning government, or private, why is voting the only thing that's exempt? Now, I as a voter, I have the right to have my vote counted equally to every other legal voter in this country. However, without voter ID and without some form or way of distinguishing and telling and making sure that there's a level playing field, that everybody's vote counts, my right is being denied. Look, we already heard about the stories about the woman in Chicago being caught voting in this past election 6 different times. Now, all the people in Chicago that voted once just had their votes, what? Basically nullified by someone who scammed the system because there was no ID requirement. Think about it. I have a right to vote. You have a right to vote if you're a citizen. And because you have that right to vote, no matter what your skin color, your ethnicity, your background, or religious origin, you also have a right for that vote to count equally. And it's not being counted equally, especially if one other person gets 6 votes and you only get 1. Your vote is meaningless. So I have a right to walk into a polling place and to cast my vote and to have my vote count. Now, one way of helping ensuring that fairness, because, hey, after all, liberals are all about things being fair. Got to be fair. Everything's got to be fair. You got to have a fair shot, fair chance, fair economics, fair everything. Except when it comes to what? Voting? Is it fair that somebody gets to go in there and vote 6 times? Is it fair that there's a possibility that the next time I walk into a polling place that does not require ID, that I walk up to them and they say, okay, fine, who are you? My name. Oh, no, you already voted. No, I didn't. I'm right here. I didn't vote. I've been working all day. Well, no, it says that somebody came in under your name and voted. Well, then you check their ID? Well, we don't got to check ID. Let me tell you something. Folks, that has happened. That has happened in the past in New Hampshire. I even witnessed it, not personally on me, but a fellow citizen walks into the polling place right before me. She says, I'm here to vote. And they said, your name. She says her name. And they said, no, you've already voted. This woman said, no, that's impossible. She said, I never come into this building except to vote once a year. I haven't been here yet today. Well, according to this, ma'am, you already have been here. This was before New Hampshire required voter ID. She said, well, I didn't vote. The poll worker says, there's nothing we can do. Somebody with your name came in here and voted. She says, but that's my name. I didn't vote. But somebody came in here with your name and voted. I saw it with my own eyes. That woman's right to vote was just revoked. And you want to tell me that voter ID is going to prevent people from voting? Now, some of the states that want to institute voter ID that are under this law, the Civil Rights Law of 1965, and as an aside, this is a 50-year-old law. A lot of things have changed since here in the United States since 1965, including down in the South. A lot of things have changed. Why is it that the Constitution is outdated? And why is it there are some other laws that aren't even 50 years old that are outdated, but this one isn't? That's just an aside. So you're telling me that some of these states who want to institute a voter ID law, they can't do it even though they have addressed all of the concerns. Well, they're, the po folk can't afford to get no ID. Well, some of the states have recognized this, and they've said, you know what? They can't afford it. They can't afford the 10, 15, or 20 bucks, or even $5. We'll give them an ID. Well, they can't get down to the ID voting place and get some ID. We'll come to their house, their apartment, wherever, their trailer. It doesn't. Their street corner. It doesn't matter. We'll come to their place, their domicile. Or we'll pay for a taxi to bring them downtown. So we'll come to you, or we'll pay for you to come to us, then we'll pay for the ID and give it to you. And somehow that is still akin to being a poll tax that's going to prevent especially the poor black people from voting. Look, you got to have an ID to cash a check. You got to have an ID to buy liquor and cigarettes. Well, right, those are private industries that are requiring that. No, it's not. It's government regulation requiring that those IDs be shown. But even if it were, well, you don't have a right to drink alcohol. You don't have a right to drive. That doesn't matter. The point is that government is still requiring that they have it. And if they don't have it, they're being denied their constitutional right to the pursuit of happiness. They have to have an ID in order to at least apply for government assistance. To get that first welfare check, they got to have ID. But somehow you're going to tell me that they don't need ID in order to vote, one of the most important things in our country. They don't have to have ID to vote. Now, I ask you, how does that make any sense? Now, remember, I'm not some wealthy or middle-class white guy sitting in suburbia somewhere. I'm a full-fledged black guy. I've experienced racism firsthand. And yet I'm standing here telling you voter ID is a good idea. What say you, white liberal? Point is that you have no logical reason for saying that voter ID is a bad idea. You have no logical, reasonable argument against it. Because everything that you say about voter ID, requiring, or what have you about voter ID, is a red herring because you need it everywhere else in life. Most states require that you have ID on you if you're on the street, because if a person of authority, such as a policeman, were to stop you and ask for ID, if you don't have any, they can detain you until such time they can prove your identity. But you don't have to have ID to go in that voter's booth and vote. How does that make any sense? I know. It doesn't make any sense.
I always loved watching the kids play basketball. I still do, even though things have changed. It's funny, they can't find jobs to get their career started. And I can't afford to retire. And now we're all living together again. I supported President Obama because he spoke so beautifully. He promised change, but things changed for the worse. Obama started spending like our credit cards have no limit. His healthcare law made health insurance even more expensive. We've had stimulus and bailouts. Obama added almost $16,000 in debt for every American. How will my kids pay that off when they can't even find jobs? Now Obama wants more spending and taxes. That won't fix things. I had so many hopes. Cutting taxes and debt and creating jobs. That's the change we need. Tell President Obama to cut the job-killing debt and support the New Majority Agenda at newmajorityagenda.org.
From Iraq and Afghanistan Our brave warriors are coming home, wounded. Some with wounds you can see, some with wounds you can't see. Wounded Warrior Project was created to support our men and women coming off the battlefield. Please help carry these warriors the rest of the way home. Get involved at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Today is a special day. Today we gather as a nation and as an international community to recognize the selfless decision of one of the most influential women of our time. She's been recognized by religious figures and politicians around the world. To us, she's just Rachel. But to the rest of the world, she is the woman who, after having one too many drinks, chose not to drive home buzzed. Here today to honor Rachel is the family whose lives she spared.
Save a life. Don't drive buzzed. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
I was in chronic pain, and my family struggling to make ends meet, food and gas prices going up, even keeping my job was iffy. Then I learned about a new miracle drug made in Washington, D.C., Spenditol. Spenditol is Washington's answer to all the painful problems Americans face. How to borrow $800 billion for a stimulus that didn't create jobs or fix the economy? Spenditol.
Spenditol is not for everyone. Side effects may include a mountain of government debt piled on our kids, a sudden loss of freedoms, higher prices for everything, leaving our kids a lesser America than we had. Ask your doctor or congressman if your conscience is strong enough for Spenditol.
And it's so popular in Washington, we have to import trillions more of it from China. Spenditol makes you feel better now and pushes off the really bad stuff till later, for them to deal with.
Call the White House and Congress. Tell them, stop spending it all.
Feeling lonely this holiday season? Looking for little human interaction? Do you want to feel contact in certain special places?
Then why not go through security at an airport?
The TSA.
TSA agents are ready and standing by to give you a little something extra to feel thankful about this holiday season.
The TSA.
What are you waiting for? I want to check under your testicles.
Spending time with a TSA agent couldn't be easier. Simply book a flight departing from any American airport. When selected for a full body scanner, say no. You'll be pulled aside by a TSA agent, and that's when the fun begins. And you never know who your agent will be.
It could be me. Or me. Or even me.
But it's probably gonna be us. Take off your damn shoes.
The TSA. It's our business to touch yours.
Welcome to the Bureau of Womanhood Conformity. Independent thoughts are considered subversive because all must agree with our leader.
When it comes to women, preventative care should include coverage of contraceptive services such as birth control.
You see, if you don't believe government should pay for your birth control, you're not a real woman. Womanhood denied. If you refuse to accept that pregnancy is a punishment, you're denied as well.
I don't want them punished with a baby.
If you don't believe that abortions should be allowed for any reason, if you don't believe in aborting a child for being the wrong gender, and if you don't believe that stay-at-home mothers aren't real workers, you are not a real conformed woman.
His wife has actually never worked a day in her life. His wife has actually never worked a day in her life.
Finally, for your safety, if you oppose mandatory government health care, you will die.
They will be voting to say that women can die on the floor.
These standards and regulations were formed after our glorious victory in the war on women. Thank you for your cooperation and your conformity.
You're listening to The Rod Eccles Show.
And we roll on here on The Rod Eccles Show this Wednesday evening, this hump day. And I have here in my currently nicotine-stained fingers, yes, because I am currently smoking a cigar, in here, which I call the Bunkerized Home Studio. It has a wonderful air filtration system here in the Bunkerized Home Studio. It's called a window. At some point, I am sure that there's going to be, one of the things that keeps me from actually having employees here in the Bunkerized Home Studio, because then I start to come under, government regulation and such, and I wouldn't be able to smoke a cigar, even if all of us, even if I had 5 people in here, and all 5 of us love to smoke cigars and we're lighting up. There'd be some government lackey saying, no, you can't do that because you're employees. Your employees' health. Well, they're the ones lighting up. Well, they can't do that either because of their health. Look, my health is my business. Your health is your business. And if I like to light up a stogie every once in a while, it's not, I'm not George Burns, for crying out loud. I don't have these things every single freaking day. And I'm definitely not like a cigarette smoker. I don't light one up after the other. That's for one, that'd be kind of expensive. Could I afford that? See this rack of shirts, and the colors of the shirts actually caught my attention. If people remember back when Regis Philbin first did Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, remember that? Remember the jewel toned shirts that he had? I love the color of those shirts. I even had a couple. And those jewel tones are actually coming back, and there was this jewel tone reddish purplish or purplish reddish, whatever you want to call it, kind of shirt. It wasn't really red, so I actually thought that it was more purple. Look, purple can be masculine. Just ask Prince and Donny Osmond. Purple Rain, the Purple Prince, that kind of stuff. That's Prince. Donny Osmond was famous in the 70s for admitting that he loved his favorite color was purple. He always wore purple socks. And obviously nobody accused Donny Osmond of having otherworldly sexual fantasies. And no, I don't. You know what? There aren't many sane people on this planet who would look at Prince and know Prince, the musician Prince, and say, oh, yeah, he's gay. Not going to happen with that guy. I mean, look, he started 2 bands because he was screwing his girlfriends. Well, think about it. What is it? Apollonia 6 and Vanity 6? The lead singers of each of those groups were the girlfriends of Prince at one time, and he started bands for them. And obviously they weren't the only 2, but in any case, so I was in the store and I saw a shirt, and I was with a friend, and she says, well, maybe you should try it on. And so I grabbed it, and I grabbed another one, and went to the dressing room and tried it on, and I came out, and she saw it, and she says, yeah, that purple one, that looks good on you. I said, yeah, and it was, it was a designer shirt, a Bugatti or something like that. Never heard of it, but evidently it's a famous designer. But the cut was, that's one thing I got. You know what? You can go to Sears or anywhere else and get the Hanes or the other, Staffords or whatever. They're just not made or cut the same. And this shirt fit like a glove, and it was gorgeous. And the price tag was like $149.95 or something, $150 roughly. Now, at first I said, that's a bit much for a shirt. But then I thought, a lot of my shirts now, even though I got them like for sale or something like that, they're dress shirts, button-up shirts. They're more tailored, if you want to use that word, and they didn't cost $20. That duplicate each other, because we got a ton. We could cut out a few $1 billion just alone just by eliminating duplication. Businesses do that all the time, especially when they acquire another business. A lot of people get laid off because otherwise it's duplicating. You got two departments or more doing the exact same thing, and they're thinking, well, why should we pay for that when one of them could do it? Getting rid of duplication. So But here, now that everybody's been, on Capitol Hill has been whipped up into a frenzy, and Obama has backed himself into a corner where now he's probably going to have to. I'm interested to see how he's going to weasel his way out of this one, and not govern but stay on the campaign trail. This will be interesting to see. But Obama says that he's going to hold last-minute White House spending meetings on spending cuts. Now, this is also kind of interesting because they did a poll. Politico is one of the many that do polls, and they that did these kinds of polls, and they did this poll about what the American people thought about sequestration. Only 1 in 4, 25%, not even 25%, even thought twice about it. You know, 40. I think the American people kind of get it. You're gonna cut $40 billion out of a $3.7 trillion budget. That we're supposed to believe it's going to affect the government that in such a negative way. Are you kidding me? Yeah, most of the American people, but at least 75% of them get it. And this has got the liberal Democrats worried, which is why Obama is going out there, because we go from they're trying to govern crisis to crisis. Notice we're not that Washington isn't governing on the level. It's crisis to crisis. Now, understand this. Once we get past Friday and see what, now I am not going to be surprised at all if at 11:59 on Friday we got a deal. Yeah, we got a deal. We did all this hard work. We saved ourselves from ourselves. Isn't that wonderful? We are so great. Pat ourselves in the back. President's going to be able to sign that tomorrow or Monday, and everything is going to be gorgeous again. And then on Tuesday, we're going to hear about another crisis. The continuing resolution, the more important thing, continuing resolution runs out at the end of March. That means April 1st, the government could literally shut down. Except for military and first responders and things like that, but security personnel. But government basically shuts down if there's no budget or if there's no continuing resolution. That's the next crisis that we're going to hear about all month long. And that's the next thing that Obama is going to be campaigning for or against, depending on what side of the aisle he wants to put himself on. Or I shouldn't say aisle, I should say what side of the issue he wants to put himself on at that particular moment. If he wants to put himself on the side that, that Republicans are evil, that he's going to be fighting against the Republicans. I don't see Obama really fighting for much. He's fighting against a lot of stuff. I don't see him fighting for a lot of stuff. I mean, he'll put out some crazy notion, some stupid ideas, and then he'll go and instead of trying to fight for his ideas, he will fight those evil Republicans and conservatives who only want to take food out of your children's mouths. Now, we can't allow these Republicans to do that. I'm fighting for you. I'm fighting against these Republicans who want to take food out of your mouth, who want the rich to get a tax break. That's all he's ever done. So Obama's going to hold. He's the important potentate now. Now he's got to bring everybody up to Capitol Hill, or the White House, so he can save the day, and the press is going to love it. Obama saves the day. You just see the headlines now. Saves the day from what? You seriously going to tell me that even if they cut the $44 billion, it is still going to be we're still going to spend $15 billion more than we did last year. And the government is really going to have to cut back that drastically? Well, yeah, for people who aren't well educated, well, I should say people who are well educated in government schools, they will probably believe it, even though it's not the truth, because they're educated in government schools and government think and government speak. They can't think for themselves. They wouldn't be able to put 2 and 2 together and say it equals 4. They'll look at it and say, well, I guess, that could be 5. Yeah. I could see how $44 billion would mean 800,000 people get laid off. That would be devastating for the economy. There was a woman who called Rush today, and I didn't get to listen to Rush a lot. I don't even get a full hour of Rush every day. So people say, for those of you who say that, oh, you just get all your information from Rush and Hannity and Glenn Beck and Lauren, I don't listen to any of them except for Rush, and I don't even get to listen to him for an hour. So most of the time, I have no idea what they're saying. But I find it amazing that, we tend to talk about the same things or have the same similar views, or what happens more often than not, I talk about something, and I'm not saying they're listening to me, but they listen to me, but I'm sure that they do listen to the sphere. I can talk about something one day, and a day or two later, the big guys will start talking about it. Not even on their radar. But here it is. We got now we got Thursday. Well, we got Friday for the to try to avoid this massive sequestration, and we're even going. The Republicans were even saying, you know what? Even if we have the sequestration, why don't we give Obama's administration the power within the sequestration rules to decide where the cuts are going to be made? And you know that they're having a fit. The liberals are having a fit. You can't do that. Well, why not? If you're going to say that stuff is just going to get cut willy-nilly and people are going to suffer, why don't we allow you to manipulate the cuts within the realm of sequestration within the departments? Let the department heads decide where those cuts are coming from instead of just having them equally cut across the board. No, you can't do that. And so there's a part solution. And the liberals are out there demagoguing it. Why? Well, because it's a solution. It's a logical solution. Hey, if we're going to make cuts, why don't we just let the department heads make the cuts where they can make cuts? Because you know what? It would mean that they would have to focus on what? The fat, the waste. And if they only cut the waste, the fat, nothing else would really even be affected. Oh, no. They can't have that. So they'll come up with a deal at the last possible second, like they always do. Very predictable. Hey, did you hear about the epic eruption on? I didn't see it. I haven't heard it. The epic eruption on Hannity last night. He had a congressman on there, Representative Keith Ellison, who happens to be a Democrat from Minnesota. What's a black man doing in Minnesota, by the way? I'm just asking the question. It's kind of cold up there. I know I'm in New Hampshire. And I'm not saying because Minnesota is a thoroughly white state, because New Hampshire is, or was when I first moved here. Look, Minnesota's colder than New Hampshire, where I am. If I move, I could see where people might have an issue with me if I lived in the northern half of New Hampshire in the White Mountains or in the Great White North in like Coos County or something. I mean, I could see what are you, crazy? Yeah, I could. Minnesota's just naturally colder than New Hampshire, and I do believe it gets more snow than New Hampshire. So So I just have to ask the question: what's a black man doing in New Hampshire, or doing in Minnesota? And I'm sure he loves the state, I fully understand that, because I thoroughly love the state of New Hampshire. It's just a facetious question, folks. I know somebody's going to take it seriously. But this guy, I guess he just went off the deep end. But I'm not surprised, because that's their MO. Don't answer questions directly. Just go off the deep end. And I guess he went too far off the deep end, and Hannity let him hang himself. And then Hannity just said, well, you know what? You don't want to answer any questions, so I don't know why I even have you on. And people are mad at Hannity for cutting this guy off. Well, this is why I don't do interviews. Because people will do that kind of, and look, I've gotten this from callers, and yes, we will be taking callers again soon, I promise you. But I've taken callers that have tried to pull this kind of crap. Why the hell would I interview somebody who I know that's what they're going to do? They're not interested in answering the question because they can't. That is their MO. If they can't answer the question in an honest way, then the tactic is to yell, scream, accuse, obfuscate, do anything you can in a very loud voice to keep the other person from talking. See, the problem is that when they get on these shows, though, like this, they don't have control over the button. And when I was taking callers, I had control of the button. Called the mute button. Or if they got too far off the deep end, the hang up button, disconnect button. But this is their MO. Is anybody, I mean, everybody's out there acting like they're surprised about it. I'm not surprised about it at all. And one of the, the first thing they're going to do is call, they're calling Hannity, basically is calling Hannity a racist and a disgraceful journalist. And I don't know how many times Hannity has said that he is not a journalist. Sean Hannity has said, I'm not a journalist. I, Rod Eccles, am not a journalist. Of commentator. That's totally different. And unfortunately, of late, it seems like all the commentators out there are delving into and delivering more honest and truthful news than the so-called journalists whose job that is to do. Now, you're a disgraceful journalist, Hannity. Well, okay. I'm not a journalist. You're a disgraceful journalist, Rod. I'm not a journalist. I'm a commentator. There is a difference. And the problem is that you don't like that I disagree with you. You don't like that you don't have answers, good, solid, logical, commonsensical answers to my questions. So instead of saying, well, I don't know, or, well, maybe you got a point, you're going to go off the deep end and start screaming at me. Or Hannity or whoever. That's your MO. That's what you always do. That's what they do. Doesn't matter who it is. It's a sad fact and a sad point. Plain and simple. The Rod Eccles Express is pulled into the station again. Tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel, so be here for that. Until then, hey, folks, if you're under 30 especially, you better start saving every single dime you can get your hands on. Because it's going to come to the point where you're going to need it. I'm telling you the truth, folks.
Well, goodbye. And don't think it hasn't been a little slice of heaven, because it hasn't.
I'm Rod Eccles Show. I'm out.